What is the creepiest thing you've seen in the woods, or in the mountains, or in deserts, or caves, or in small towns, or in remote or rural areas, or while on large bodies of water, or while on an aircraft or a nautical vessel? Cowlitz River, Washington State. Camping with my dad and sister me buddies, early 90s. Something was throwing rocks and sticks into our camp. We shined a flashlight out and caught a reflection of eyes and a silhouette. Very, very tall. Kept throwing stuff in our camp randomly for about 15 minutes. We just stoked the fire really high. In the morning I woke up to heavy footsteps in our camp and something reeked. Woke up my dad. He shook the tent and yelled. Whatever it was ran off. Human retinas don't reflect light back at night. That's a fun little fact I like sharing around the campfire. I'd been at football training with a few of my cousins when I was about 10 years old. We decided to take a walk before our parents picked us up, so we went along the canal towpath. My cousin looked down in the canal and saw a really nice jacket floating along, and being a weird scavenger person, decided to reach in to fish it out. Well, the jacket turned over. And so did the man wearing it. He also had no face left. Not gonna lie, that was rough. That must have been terrifying. What did you do next? Ran back to the training complex and had an adult call the police. We acted surprisingly well, to be honest. I guess you guys were literally scared straight, like just emotionless after witnessing that. They had no facial expression. I was driving home after an extremely late night at work. I lived in the middle of nowhere. About a mile before I got there, a woman covered in blood jumped out of the woods into the middle of the road screaming. I panicked and went around her, then slammed on the brakes to help. Her boyfriend had beaten her and was currently chasing after her in the woods. I got her in my car and called the police. They met us at the hospital because I told them there was no way I was waiting on the side of the road when he was coming. Not sure if this is the kind of story you're looking for, but it's a fun one to tell, so here you go. I used to work in low-income home weatherization, basically giving free shit away to help lower electricity and gas bills, and make the home more comfortable to people who really needed it, installing doors and insulation and so forth. One step in qualifying a home is testing combustion appliances to make sure they're not emitting carbon monoxide into the living space, because if they are and we seal up the house, we could kill the whole family. During a pre-inspection of a home on the outskirts of the city, I asked to see the owner's water heater. He tells me that it's in the basement, which is fairly normal, and I tell him I have to inspect it before work can start. So, he goes into the kitchen and starts moving the refrigerator. Turns out the entry into the basement is underneath carpeting beneath the fridge. I should note that I went and did thousands of homes over the years, and had never seen such a thing. But, whatever, needs to be done regardless, and so I pull out my flashlight and shine it down the stairs, to check out the layout, but really to look for black widow spiders, because frick black widows. At this point I notice a dead cat, mostly down to a skeleton. Not my favorite sight, but really common in crawl spaces and basements. I take a few steps down the stairs and continue my spider check, and notice another couple of small animal skeletons. At this point I start to worry about gas, or poisons, or something equally dangerous, and start looking closer. There are animal skeletons everywhere, at least 10 on a cursory look. Some of them are so degraded I can't determine what they used to be. I also happen to notice that this guy is waiting at the entrance a little too quietly, with his hand on the door. Something clicks in my brain and I get this immense sense of danger. I'm about 4 steps from the door being cleared to close. I have no partner on the job with me, there's death all around me, and I realize just how hidden the entrance to the basement really was. I noped the frick out, told the guy I needed extra tools and would be back, and marked the job as non-feasible for health and safety as I was driving away. I have no idea if I was actually in any danger. It could have been completely innocent, but I still remember the adrenaline rush and sense of doom, and sometimes you just don't take chances. For whatever reason this story hits the most as creepy over every other one. Found a deer with its hind end ate up. Few feet away was a coyote with the hind end ate up. Then another few feet away a fox with its hind end ate up. Nothing else was there. No bullet holes or signs of an arrow or anything else. Couldn't find any tracks from other people or animal. It was pretty creepy. Found in the hills of West Virginia. Ass-eating SCN. This is probably less scary than a lot of the other posts, but I was pretty sure I was going to be the nameless victim at the start of a horror movie, to show how dangerous the monster is. Basically, my dad and I were walking through the woods when we came across a young moose leg lying on the ground. It looked like it had been violently torn off with no sign of the rest of the moose anywhere. It was fresh with blood still on the wound, probably no more than a couple hours old. My dad is a pretty skilled hunter, so he handed me his axe that he was carrying and told me to watch for wolves while he started looking for tracks. After a little bit he came back saying that's weird. Normally if it was wolves you'd be able to find paw prints, but I can't see any. Also no bear prints, so I have no idea what killed this, and so I'm like, you didn't find any tracks at all? And his very reassuring response was, well, I did find what appears to be the mama moose tracks headed this way, showing me the tracks. You can see how her stride is a lot longer here. Whatever killed her baby, she didn't want to fight it. She just took off running. He then pulls out his bear spray and holds it at the ready as we kept walking deeper into the woods with the unnamed non-track, leaving predator armed with bear spray and an axe. When a freaking moose flees the scene you better run fast. Yeah, as a general rule of thumb I don't frick with things that win head-on collisions with cars. I was driving through rural parts of Missouri with a buddy. We drove down a single-lane road that had no exit. At the end of the road, there was a group of deer corpses laid in a perfect circle. I'd say there was at least 10 deer. We BTFO real quick. Edit. Spelling. Went on a mountain hike in Transylvania with a group of friends from school, and way up, after maybe 12 to 14 kilometers of trekking, we saw a house was in the middle of nowhere. It had a barn, with a few animals, couple of cows, chicken, etc. As we get closer, we see a few people, a guy and 5 to 6 women. Not sure if there were more inside. The dude comes to greet us, barely speaking the language. We had a hard time understanding what he's saying. They lived without electricity, gas, anything. This is in the early 90s, so there's no internet, mobile phones to worry about. At least for most people. Anyway, they all looked weird, kin to dumb expressions on their face. We can barely understand each other. They asked us who's the president now, and if we want some milk. They look at our clothes and shoes weirdly, curious. Like who knows when is the last time they had human contact. Or maybe there were more crazies around those parts. Dunno. Not sure to this day what was going on. It's not typical in the region, so we kinda freaked out, especially cause the dude looked a bit disturbed, and we were too young. We were looking around to see if there's more of them. Paranoia was getting to us, thinking there must be a village nearby. What was also weird is that all the women kept their distance, and never got close to us. Like he was guarding them, or checking us out, if it's safe for them. One of my friends kept saying we don't want their milk, and we need to go, cause it's getting dark. We walked calmly for a while, then when we thought we're out of their sight, bolted like crazy out of there. Needless to say, we camped after a few hours, and we always had one person awake to keep watch. We told people that were living in the villages near that area, about the mountain people, and they didn't believe us. They said nobody lives there, up in the mountains. I was mountain biking in the woods, and I came across an East Asian looking man in a perfectly fitted suit and a briefcase. Just casually walking through the woods. Are you a Grand Theft Auto NPC? I found a woman's body floating in a harbor in San Pedro, California. Holy moly, what happened? Finders keepers. I saw a dude take a dump, and while pooping get bit on his ass by a snake. There's only room for one snake in these here woods. Stop dropping more off. Super long story, TLDR nearly got murdered backpacking in rural Tasmania. My boyfriend and I were backpacking through rural Tasmania a few years ago. While on a bus, we were discussing our plans for the ensuing 2 weeks. The girl in the seat in front turns around and offers us a place to stay in her town. We declined as we were headed elsewhere first, but she gave us her mobile number and said that she and her partner would love to have us. A few days later we decide to take them up on their offer. We call her, and she says they're happy to host us. So far so good. They meet us at the train station and immediately something feels off. It's really difficult to explain, but it's that primal, ineffable feeling in your guts that tells you that something isn't right. We ignored our guts and followed them. They lead us straight out of town. We ask them where we're going and they say that they live on the outskirts. This town is creepy as frick. It's an old mining town that has been largely abandoned, and as we walk the 15-odd minutes to their home, the houses get shittier, with boarded-up windows, overgrown gardens and no people in sight. Eventually we reach the house at the very end of the town. It's their house. We go in. Set up in the middle of the living room is a single mattress with a sheet hanging around it. They show us around the house except for one door which stays closed. When I asked what was behind it, they pretended not to hear. Our room has a made bed, chest of drawers, and looks like a normal room. It seems weird that they sleep on mattresses in the living room when they have a guest room. We go back into the living room and look around. Knives. A lot of knives. My boyfriend asks if they go hunting. No. The partner hands one of the knives to my boyfriend and asks him to open it. It's a massive freaking Bowie knife with what looks like blood staining around the edges of the blade. My boyfriend laughs awkwardly and sets it down. They have a tattoo gun to practice. My boyfriend asks if they have any tattoos. No. There's a small axe at the door. I ask if they collect wood. No. Suddenly the guy says he wants to go to the shops. We agree quickly because we're creeped out and want to get back into the town. The four of us leave and they start walking in the opposite direction to the town. I say that the town is back the other way. The guy says this way would be more interesting because it goes up through the trees. He says that they have never been up the mountain before, but he knows the area, and it would take the same amount of time. I tell my boyfriend that I'm freaking out, but he thinks it's okay. We follow them into the trees. The path goes up the mountain. We are going in the total opposite direction of the town. The girl turns around to her partner and whispers, "So where was the place again?" My boyfriend and I freeze. I say I want to take the road back to town and start walking. When the four of us arrive in the one shop in town, no one recognizes the couple. And this is a really small town. We make an excuse that we want to go look at sights, and that we'll catch up with them later, and instead book a hotel room and freak out. I did some snooping on the area. Their house had an extra room, behind a mystery door, and a basement. The path that we were taking led straight out of town and up the mountain. There was no way it could loop back into town. So yeah, pretty sure we narrowly avoided being murdered. Or maybe they were just massive weirdos. TBH, the creepiest thing was the fact that there was no drug paraphernalia at all. The state of the house, and the weird behavior would have been understandable if they were intoxicated, but that wasn't the case. They were gonna kill your BF and sell you as a prostitute. The tattoo gun is to mark you as their property, and the mattress is probably where you would have worked. I was on a camping trip with some friends of mine, and we found like 7 or 8 chipmunks and squirrels all in a pile, but they were all dead without arms or legs. Edit. This is my highest rated comment, thank you. During a YMCA camp, 15 to 20 years ago, was around 11 to 13 at the time, we were camping in tents in a forest area. Was middle of summer, so stayed light till around 10 p.m., 11 p.m., till it was fully dark. So we go on a night walk with the group and are halfway into the forest when we notice someone definitely not belonging to our group following us. Camp leaders rushed us back to camp and put us into our tents with one leader staying up to watch us. Cue halfway through the night, wake up and have to pee like a madman. Get out of the tent to walk to the bathroom and see the leader supposed to watch us asleep in his chair by the campfire. Look around and see that the guy following us earlier has opened up and is peeking into one of the tents, while fumbling in a bag he has next to him. Screamed louder than I ever screamed in my life. Leaders wake up, jump the guy and hold him till the police arrive. Turns out he had a taser, blindfold, rope and several knives in his bag. That made me nearly pee myself. OMG, if you'd not awakened, can you imagine?